All right, everybody, it's 11 o'clock here on the West Coast. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is Justin with eSUB Construction Software, and I'm hosting today's webinar on flexible time tracking for the field. With that said, looks like the room's just about full. I see clients from California, New York, Washington, Alabama, Florida, Kansas, Ohio. We've got pretty good representation across the board here, and I can't contain my excitement any longer, so I want to go ahead and just get started. Like I said, my name's Justin. For those of you who don't know me, I've got a strong background in construction. I've been a foreman, I've been a superintendent, an estimator, project manager, so I've had to deal with time cards from filling them out myself to reviewing ones that my supers are filling out and approving them, and even helping the back office make sure that payroll gets processed. In today's webinar, unfortunately, there's so many of us today that I can't turn on everybody's microphone, but this is, as always, going to be an interactive experience. We have some poll questions that we're going to be putting out here shortly, and then also there's a questions box in your GoToMeeting controls. So as we go through this webinar, if you have any questions, I will answer those on the fly as long as you use those GoToMeeting controls, type in your question, and I'll go ahead and jump right on it. With that said, we've got both eSUB clients and new prospects in the room today. So I wanted to throw up a quick poll and just figure out who's in the room today. So guys, go ahead and grab your mouse. We're going to have a few of these polls, so the quicker we get everybody in, the quicker we'll move on. All right, perfect. Looks like we just got about everybody in here so far. I'll go ahead and wrap this one up. And I'll throw the results out there. It looks like about 2/3 of us are already eSUB clients, and a third are probably brand new and might be seeing this stuff for the first time. Well, with that said, we also have trades that are represented, different trades represented today. So I want to know what industry you guys are in. I understand, unfortunately, I can only throw a handful in here. If you don't see your trade listed, throw it in the comments, throw it in the questions section. Really like to know, what types of trades are here today. As we know, eSUB was born from a claims consulting firm that exclusively represented commercial subcontractors. And through this time capture today, we're going to show how you guys can increase your profitability, have vision and transparency on the job, and then also make sure that you're have yourself covered for any disputes that may come up in the future. Well, kind of looks like we got a landslide going on here, but we'll throw it out. I'll go ahead and close this poll and share it with everybody. Looks like we got heavy from the electrical mechanical fields. Our finishing trades are well represented, same with our site work, and we've got some glazing and concrete folks as well. So I want to go ahead and close that up and sort of move into the presentation today. We want to know, when it comes to managing your projects, what's your biggest risk to profit on your jobs? So go ahead and grab your mouse again and let me know, hey, where is that risk for overruns coming from? Is it from my labor? Is it equipment, material? Is it overhead costs from the back office or management fees, things like that? All right. Looks like we got a couple more people need to get in there and vote. I'll go ahead and close it up and we'll dive in. Well, look, I asked the question, even though I already know the answer. Labor is our biggest risk to profit on the job. It's real easy to see how delays may be caused by other trades or inaccuracy in the drawings or specs can really accumulate these labor costs quickly. So 80% say we're going over on labor. We got a strong showing on material, a little bit from overhead. So I'll go ahead and wrap that up. And, where's labor coming from? It's coming from our time cards. And what we're hoping to do today is show you guys some better ways and some other options for capturing your time from your folks out in the field. What we find is it's kind of all over the place, right? If you've got a manual process, people running back and forth paperwork, people calling it in, maybe they text it in, people send an email, and it's coming from all different angles. And, kind of with that said, I'm curious on how you guys are currently reporting time from the field. I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. Is it paper timesheets where these are coming from? Is it phone calls? We've got eSUB clients, so are you currently using our app to capture time? Or do you maybe have some other time card system in place you wanted to compare to what we offered today? All right, we got a couple more people. I want to jump in there and get voted. I can see who you are, so don't think I don't know. I'm just messing with you guys. But let's go ahead and wrap this one up and take a quick peek. Looks like by far it's paper timesheets, followed up by eSUB app, not bad, and then using some other time card apps as well. I see phone calls came in at a 0. I guarantee there's folks out there, even though it's not the official process, you're getting phone calls from the guys trying to get their time in there in the last minute. So I'll go ahead and wrap this one up and put it in the books. So I want to throw this up here on the big screen. What we've gotten from a couple clients so far is basically, it takes time, so it costs us money. We've got a few clients that have, 1,000+ workers, and for them, this is $1 million+ problem a year. Their biggest concern is the time that the foreman is using to enter the hours, and that foreman time is where their risk to profit is. I've got a client kind of on the smaller side, about 30 to 40 field workers, and their concern is in the office, right? It takes them 6 hours a week, and I assume for some people it might take even longer. So before we jump into the product, I got one more poll question just to make sure we're not all sleeping, is, are you guys happy with your time card process? Is that time card process something that you guys are able to, that you're happy with? Is there room for improvement? Do you hate it, but you're making it work? Or on the other end, is it just a giant mess? All right, looks like we got about everybody in here. I'll go ahead and close this one up and share those results. Nobody says it's perfect. so it looks like we got some room for improvement. For about 10% of us out there, 1 in 10, it's a disaster, right? And for more than half of us out there, it's definitely not good, but we're making it work as is. So hoping to offer a couple other solutions for you guys as well. Let me pull the big screen back up. And I got one more poll question for us today, or a couple more poll questions, but what are some of the challenges of this time card process? Is it not knowing if the information is accurate? Is it just collecting and transporting the time cards and getting those into the office? Or is it more with, double entry? One thing that I was always guilty of is time cards were due by, 8 a.m. Monday morning. I was the guy getting them in at noon and then, putting up a stink when I wasn't getting my guys paid. Looks like we got just about everybody in here. If you've got any last minute votes, throw those in because, it's not just for us, but kind of share with the group as well. There's a big problem with accuracy. Absolutely. transporting time cards, getting them in the office, and then double entry. That double entry comes from, people having to manually handwrite those. Maybe it comes from a time card system that doesn't integrate with your accounting package. If you guys have an accounting package that you want to know how we integrate with it, throw it in the questions and I'll kind of address those. But in general, eSUB produces a file, and that file is readable by your accounting software. We have a different format and a different template for each accounting software out there, and then you're able to import those into your accounting folks. Someone asked about Viewpoint. Absolutely, we've got a pre-built template that works with Viewpoint's payroll module. I'll go ahead and wrap this poll up. And kind of sticking with the whole time is money thing, I want to know, how long is it taking you guys to do time cards back in the office? It seems like I got a lot of polls today. Don't worry, we're about to wrap these up and we'll jump right into the product. There's a couple people in there with the 0 to 2 hours a week. That's pretty impressive there. I'll go ahead and close this poll and share the results. Looks like a lot of folks were kind of in that 5 to 10 hour range. That's what we find. Folks 0 to 2 hours, yeah, you're probably pretty efficient at it. And then some of our larger folks in today, I mean, this takes, if not one man day, maybe 2 or 3 man days to get time in at any given week or bi-weekly, however your pay cycles are. So with that said, why is it a good idea now? It's because everybody's got smartphones and everybody's got tablets. I won't bore you with all the stats, but 2017, almost 80% of the people had smartphones. 2018, 2019, we're going to see that number just continue to grow. With eSUB, there are 3 different ways to enter time. We can have the foreman enter time for his crew. We can have somebody punching in and punching out from a phone, or we can have somebody punching in and punching out from a kiosk. Now, I kind of want to know where I should spend most of my time today. So with that said, of the different ways that we can enter time, what best sort of relates to what you guys are currently doing or what you guys want to move to in the future? Is it the foreman recording time on-site and off-site and breaks? Is it a foreman just recording total hours, right? Hey, I want to know, do my guys, how many hours they had for the day? Then the last 2 is, are they punching in on a like personal device or a individual device, or are they going to like a kiosk? Would you like them to go to a kiosk at the job site trailer or in the fab shop to get this information into the system? All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up, share it with the group. Looks like we're kind of split between foreman entering the time and whether those are hours or in and out. There's definitely a runaway with people punching in themselves, capturing their location, so that way we know, were they at the job site when they punched in, or whether they at their house or Tim Hortons when they punched in. So let's go ahead and jump right into the product and take a look at those 3 different ways that we're able to enter time into eSUB. So I've got my iPad up here on the screen. Depending on what the use is, there's an app for that. I'll go start with the foreman entering time. And the way the foreman enters his time is on daily reports. And these daily reports have more than just time in them. They've got comments, things like, description of work performed. What sort of work did we do today? Scheduling or coordination issues. By far, we're going to focus on time today, but I cannot have a webinar without stressing the importance of a daily report. This daily report kind of rolls right into the foreman entering time for his crew. What's really unique about our system is a lot of folks are doing the paper time cards, or they might have an Excel spreadsheet. eSUB is what we call structured data. So all this data that we're collecting is searchable and you can report on. Also a big advantage is anytime I'm using the mobile app, I can utilize the talk to type feature to enter the information. This will allow the foreman to get in a lot of information very quickly. Also, because they're not handwriting it, it'll be legible for the folks in the office. All right. Besides our comments, our next section on our daily report is what we came here to talk about, which is entering time for my crew. So what the heck is a crew? Well, a crew is a group of people working on a certain area of the job. So we can split our jobs up into different buildings, levels, areas, different types of work at a high level. And then, of course, we've got our cost coding, because these actual time that we're collecting, we're going to be able to reference back to our estimated time and be able to compare our estimates versus our actuals. And that's why this cost work breakdown structure is very important. So we were doing rough-in. Who was doing rough-in? We had Chris, Justin, and Michael, and they put in 8 hours. From our daily report, we can also track unit productivity. So, how many units did we install today? And then also, this little box for lost hours does a great job of combining all the delays that you have throughout a project onto a single report. Now, Chris and Justin and Michael, they worked 8 hours today, but one of those 8 hours was unproductive. Why was it unproductive? There was another trade in the way, and we couldn't begin work. So that's how we enter a time from a foreman level. We can see the totals if they're working across multiple different cost codes on the day. Besides that, on our daily report, we can track subcontractors, equipment, material usage. We can also take photos, and our weather information comes here automatically as well. If there's somebody who needs an immediate copy of this daily report, we can email it. Maybe that's going to the general contractor. Maybe it's going to my project manager because this one's real important. I need his eyes on it. Maybe it's going to my purchasing manager because I had a material request on here. It's up to you. Ryan asked about Sage 100 and whether we integrate with that. We've got a connector for Sage 100 that brings that time over. I can speak from my personal experience implementing it. It works really well. Joe asked about SAM Pro. I haven't heard of that one. Joe, ask SAM Pro if they have a import template for time. Usually that's going to be like an Excel file or a text file. And feel free to, we'll give you some contact information, shoot it over to us, and we'll see if we can make that work. Do they have to be connected to use the talk to type? Yeah, I think they do. I think that's kind of, well, it depends on the device. The talk to type, from my experience, can be worked offline with Android devices. I believe you do have to have a connection for that talk to type to work with your Apple devices. So that's how the foreman in the field enter time for their crew, right? I'm a foreman, I fill out my daily report, I put my crew in, it produces time cards that we'll take a look at in just a second. Now, my other option, my second of the three options for entering time for my folks out in the field is an individual. An individual comes in on his phone and he sees a screen like this. He's up at the top, we see what projects he's working on. We also see our cost codes that we can select from. So let's go ahead and choose a different cost code. I was doing drywall hang, and I'm going to go ahead and punch in. What happens when I hit that punch in button is it captures my GPS location. Now we know where they were when they said that they started work. Now, there might be a good reason they weren't at the job site. Maybe they were at the office. Maybe they were at the supply house. So if they are not within the location, a geofence, we still allow them to punch in, but we'll flag it on the back end, and we'll show you what those GPS maps look like. Once I'm punched in, I have a few different options. One thing that sets us apart from a lot of the other time capture softwares out there, besides our whole labor productivity and our project management suite that ties into this, but specifically on the time, is comments. What will happen throughout the week is either the back office or the folks in the field will have a question about their time entry. So they can come in and put in their comments. Is this going to be overtime? And that works like text messages going back and forth. We'll see those in the back office, how those come across, and then the alerts that they get here on the mobile app. Throughout the day, I may switch projects or I may switch cost codes. So our other option here is to switch. I could pick a different project if I needed to. I could pick a different cost code and then make that switch. Besides switching, you may also require that they punch out for lunch. So we have a break section here. This break is for those unpaid breaks because it deducts from my time. So I went ahead and jumped on my break. My time is paused up at the top, but my time starts running down here at the bottom. You can set reminders for things like remind me after I've been punched in for 8 hours, remind me to come back from my break after 30 minutes, and then also what sort of notifications that I get. Now, besides punching in and punching out, the mobile app, whether it's on an individual or a kiosk mode, will allow them to review their time for this current week or past weeks. So what I see up here at the top is I see my week, and I can see I put in 10 on Monday, 9 on Tuesday, 9 on Wednesday. If I want a breakdown of what's overtime and what's standard time, I can see that here. eSUB has got some settings we'll show you on setting thresholds for overtime, whether that's a daily threshold and or a weekly threshold. I could also drill down into my individual days and see my punches. There's an option whether or not you want your end user to be able to edit, and so you'll be able to control that as well. Once the time's been approved, they'll also be able to sign it in the back office as well, or excuse me, sign it out in the field as well. And we'll take a look at that approval process and notice that my time for the 19th through the 25th has been approved, and it'll be ready for signature. When I punch out of the app, it's going to prompt me, have you been injured? And the reason we do this is so that injuries don't come back weeks later. If they were not injured, they hit no, it records that, and we move on. If they were injured, they need to report it, so that way we can take the proper steps. And so if I hit yes, it's going to pull up a comment box. You know, why was I injured? How was I injured? You know, I done broke my leg. And they'll go ahead and punch it out and alert the back office that there was an injury. And we'll take a look at that in just a minute. That's the individual punching in and punching out from his phone. We also have the option of setting up the device in a kiosk mode. And we'll throw this sideways to get a little more real estate. This kiosk, it could be any Android or Apple tablet. It is reserved for the tablets. And somebody will come on to the job site and see the kiosk, or into the fabrication shop and see the kiosk, and they'll go ahead and pick, pick their name. If it's the first time, they'll set up their own PIN, use their PIN to come in and punch out. Now, what you'll notice is that this mirrors the functionality that we saw before. I punched in, it let me know that I punched in, and now the next person in line would come in. So Brian punched himself in, he moves out of line, Daniel comes in, puts in his PIN, he punches in. And what's nice about this is they could punch in or out from any tablet that has an internet connection. If there's not an internet connection, it'll store the information locally until a connection is regained, and then pass that up to the cloud. Nicole wants to know what happens if their phone dies. Well, what's nice about any of these punches that we've seen is that information is stored either in the cloud or locally. You can turn your phone off. Your phone could die. And when you go ahead and power that device back on, your timer will still be running, and you'll be able to punch in or punch out as needed. Of course, let's say, they forgot to punch out. That's probably a phone call to the superintendent. Maybe it's to the payroll folks. Hey, I forgot to punch out, and I'll show you how you guys can edit the time from the back office. Dean wants to know if the end user can enter like an address or job number rather than select from a long list. Absolutely. Those lists are completely searchable by both job number and job name. If you put the address, which a lot of folks do, in the job name, they could search by the address. But essentially, you're going to be searching by your project number or project name. Thanks, Nicole and Dean. So with that said, let's transition, right? This isn't rocket science. It's very easy to use for the guys out in the field. And let's go ahead and see what this looks like for our folks back in the office. So this is my eSUB homepage. For those current clients, you'll be very familiar with this. When you have your new time card management turned on, you'll just hit the red TM button, and it'll take you to the time card management portion of eSUB. What we see here is we see the given week across the top, and then any of my time entries down below, and these are sorted by employee. So we can see Jay has been punching in and punching out throughout the week. If we need to, we can expand his time to see the individual entries. I can notice that, if there was an injury, so I definitely want to take a closer look at these. Right? Is this going to be overtime? Done broke my leg. I could go ahead and reply back to him if I needed to. Also, I can come in and see the location of where they were when they punched in and punched out versus the project location. As my boss can see, I'm right here in the office where I should be. If I needed to, I could edit any of this information as far as time in, time out from the back office. I could update my cost codes, change my dates or my projects. I could reject and or approve the time as well. Let's see, Sheila had a question. Does eSUB set up the program keys for the company? All your passwords and user pins are all set up by you guys internally or the end user. That way we can ensure that there's data integrity there. So let's kind of keep going through this process. I've reviewed the time. All the time looks good for the week, and I'm going to go ahead and select all my time cards and then approve the time. You have to have an approval pin and be marked as an approver to approve the time. What we'll see is those time cards have gone from pending to approved. If I need to make any edits, those will go from approved back to pending, or any rejections from there. If I kind of transition back to the mobile app, what I'll see is once my time has been approved, it's going to ask me to sign the time card. So I can go ahead and say, yep, let's go ahead and sign this. Did I take my breaks? Is my time sheet true and correct? Also be aware, be reminded that we're capturing injuries on a daily basis as well. So what's going to happen is that's going to go from approved to signed, and then we'll go ahead and process payroll from there. Only approved records will be available for export to your accounting package, but we do not wait for them to be signed for you to export them. They just have to be approved. A couple questions comes in here. Is there any limitations? John asked if there's any limitations when using the kiosk as far as GPS location or something else that's not included. John, the functionality of our kiosk app is identical to the functionality of the time app. So it will capture the GPS location, but the GPS location is going to be pretty predictable because it's a tablet on site in the trailer. So we'll be able to see those. Chad wants to know if you can push a list of employees from eSUB to Viewpoint. At very least, there is a spreadsheet with the employee number and the employee name that can be imported, but we also do offer deeper integration with Viewpoint to help automate that process. Depends on which product you're using and a few other variables there. At very least, you can always import a spreadsheet. At a higher level of functionality, some of the accounting package we offer a deep level of integration with that'll allow those employees cost codes and estimates to transfer over. Joe asks how accurate is the GPS location. It's going to be as accurate as the device can give us. Depending on the situation, your GPS may use cell phone signal, it may use Wi-Fi spot to determine its location, or it may actually use the GPS satellites. And again, there is a variable on how accurate those are, but you'll be able to know, in my example, it doesn't show where I'm sitting, but it's got me in the building. And really, it's even got me on the correct half of the building that we're in. Working with high rises, I don't think it does anything as far as elevation goes. So we'll know if they're in the building opposed to across the street picking up a coffee at McDonald's. So one of the other things that really sets eSUB apart from other time-only solutions is the availability to compare estimated costs versus actual cost. So I want to show you a couple examples of those reports. We can go into a some high-level detail on some of this stuff. What we're looking at here is what is called our percent of efficiency report. What we've got is estimated cost and budgeted hours. And then we have actual cost and hours used. Now, what that's going to show us is the percent of hours that we've used, right? So out of my budget, I've used 56% of my hours. Now, this column here will let me do projections into the future on how many hours is it going to take to complete this part of the job and what's my current level of efficiency. So this percent complete is filled out from the tablet or from the office by maybe a superintendent or a project manager that walks the job, once a month, once a week, depending on how often you need this information updated. What that's going to do is based on your visual percent complete, that's going to calculate your level of efficiency and the remaining hours that it's going to take to finish this. Now, where this becomes really important is I've been on both ends of it. I've been the project manager and I've been the estimator. I've also been both at the same time, managing projects that I estimated. And in that case, there's nobody to blame but myself. But in a lot of companies, there's an estimating department and a project management department. And, I don't want to make assumptions, but I can almost guarantee at one point in every one of your companies, the project manager pointed his finger at the estimator and said, you didn't estimate it right. And the estimator pointed his finger back at the project manager and said, you didn't do the work in a timely manner. What we want to do is kind of take away the finger pointing and have fact-based discussions. Because we're able to roll these reports up by the company, by the market area, even within the projects themselves, we can now have a fact-based discussion on how long does it really take our team, our current team, to complete these sort of actions and what their efficiencies are. What you'll find is you had a different crew 10 years ago. You had a different crew 5 years ago. You might have had a different crew than you started with this year. And that crew, your current crew, is going to be more effective at certain things than they are at others. And being able to know where you're good and where you can sharpen your pencil and then what needs to be padded. Because this market is so competitive, this will allow you to sharpen your pencil because you don't want to be too efficient. It sounds like a good idea, but you may be overbidding stuff and losing work that you could trim it down because this particular makeup of the crew you have is more efficient. We could also break this down instead of a percent complete, break it down by units. And what we're looking at here is, on the left, we've got estimated, and on the right, we've got our actuals. We can, if you do unit tracking, how many units did we estimate? How many units have we installed? And then referencing the amount of hours used by the percent of units completed. So if I've used 81% of my hours, but only installed 40% of my units, that may cause a problem. And hopefully, because this is all real-time information, that your project managers now have this at their fingertips and will be able to make smart forward. John wants to take another look at the kiosk app. I've finished the basic workflow, so I'll go ahead and pop the kiosk app back open. Now is a great time for any questions on either the foreman entering time for the crew, the individual punching in and punching out from his own device or from a company provided device, or using the kiosk mode. So I'll go ahead and throw my iPad back up here on the screen. And I'll pull up that kiosk app. So what's real nice about the kiosk app is it doesn't take any extra setup to do. You've got your employees, you've got your jobs, and because that's already set up in eSUB, you can use any of these three options, essentially interchangeably. When a person comes in to the kiosk, they're going to see a list of names over here on the left. What they're able to do is they're able to search, right, if it's a long list, put in their PIN that they've set up, and in this case, Brian needs to punch out. Were you injured? No, you were not injured. Lets you know that you've been punched out, flips it over for the next guy in line. Next guy in line comes in. If he does sit here and wait and wait and wait, it will automatically time him out. That way the next person can come in. He can review his timesheets just like we saw before and make any edits to the time as needed. He can see any notifications that might be applicable as well. John wants to know if we can use the kiosk mode on one job and the crew punch or the foreman time capture on another job. Absolutely. These can all be used interchangeably. You could even have some people use the kiosk and some people record their time from the foreman on the same job. Probably not a great workflow, but it doesn't matter. You can punch in from one mobile app and punch out from another if needed. Glenn asks about part of their users are hourly and part are piecework, and as if they're a way to enter piecework. Piecework can either be captured by comments, it could be captured by units. You may have a different cost code for piecework than you do for hourly stuff. That's also a good way to track it as well. And it just really comes down to what sort of reporting needs your back office needs to utilize. Chad says they've got about 350 employees. Do companies of that size have individuals sign in, or do they have employees complaining about putting it on their personal devices? So I've heard it both ways, Chad. I've definitely heard folks go, well, I don't want to use my device. And if that's the case, sometimes companies will reimburse for personal devices. You may have company issued devices. If that really becomes a hassle, tablets these days are very, very inexpensive. You can get a tablet all day for a really nice one for 120 bucks. And that might be the investment that your company wants to make. So the people who want to use it on the individual, they can, and the people who don't, they got to go in the trailer and punch in and punch out. Well, guys, I want to go ahead and throw up some contact information up on the screen. That way, you guys can reach out to us if you've got any further questions on this. For any prospective clients, email info@esub.com or give us a phone call at the 1-800 number. Use option 1 for sales, and we'll be able to set up a demo for you guys to go through this in more detail. If you've got questions on pricing, that's a good one as well. If you're a current client, reach out to your account manager directly. If you don't know who that is or don't know what their contact info is, you can use clientsuccess@esub.com or call the 1-800 number and use option 2 for support. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have, set up a demo if needed. And like always, we're here to protect the subcontractor, try to make them more profitable and more productive. So I want to wrap things up today, guys. I really appreciate your time. Couple questions came in. Ryan asked if we can use it on Android and Apple. Absolutely. It'll run on any of your Android or Apple devices. Chad, really appreciate your feedback as well. Thank you guys so much. I'll go ahead and kind of wrap this thing up officially. I will stay on the line here for any other questions. So for anyone without any questions, thank you guys so much. Appreciate your time, and we look forward to speaking with you guys again soon. For anybody still left, I do got a poll question I'll throw out there. Just let us know if you're interested in receiving some more information. Go ahead and let us know yes or no, and that'll be recorded, and we'll be happy to reach out to you guys. Thanks again, guys, and take care.